So today, for the next half an hour, my focus is just to take you to few SolidWorks tips and tricks. So most of you here know that SolidWorks, within SolidWorks, we have a lot of tips and tricks, but keeping the time constraint in mind, I have come up with a few tips and tricks, right? So before even going into the details of it, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Yatish Krishnamacha, a part of the product definition team. Um, s- so the whole goal of the product definition team is to meet with customers, understand their requirements. When I say requirements, so each year customers come up with different enhancement requirements based on their own necessities and needs, and also based on the changing technological trends, right? So they come up with few requests, and it's up to the product definition team to kind of understand these requirements clearly, what is expected from the customer, then to prioritize these requests, because there will be so many requests coming in each year from millions of customers around the world. So we kind of prioritize what we have to do for the next year, right? So whatever you see as what's new in SolidWorks each year is kind of an outcome of the research that the PD and the UX team does together. So I have been working or using SolidWorks since 2015. That's when I actually started using SolidWorks. Before that, I was working on CATIA. So I was also, before even coming here, I started my career as a support training and pre-sales engineer at a reseller in Bangalore, SolidWorks reseller in Bangalore. Then I moved on to work in a company called as Tejas Networks. I worked in a mechanical R&D team as a senior mechanical design engineer, so designing the telecom equipments and stuff. And then I've been with the Dassault system since 2020, working for the product definition team. I mainly take care of drawings, sheet metal, and draft site, if you know what draft site does. So having said that, I'll just take you through the agenda today. As I told you, there are many tips and tricks that's available in SolidWorks, but I've tried to classify them into a few buckets, like the tips and tricks from user interface, sketch, modeling, assembly, and drawings. So I just wanted to show a few things from each of these domains so that it may benefit. Few. I just the whole idea is so that at least you benefit at least from some. So few might be involved in sketching or assemblies or drawings in the company. So I wanted to make sure that everybody of you have something to take away from this meeting. So having said that, I'll just quickly jump into SolidWorks. So I'll be going the same order, the user interface, sketch, modeling, assembly, and drawings. So feel free to actually stop me at any point of time if you have any questions, we can discuss, and then from there, we can go ahead, right? So again, as I told you, the tips and tricks are very small things. They are not like I'm going to present you something extravagant here. They're small things, but definitely help you improve your productivity. So I'll start with the first thing. Um, Most of you might be aware, but when you're within SolidWorks, hitting the R key on your keyboard just brings up this dialog box, which is the Welcome SolidWorks dialog box. So there are many things here. The first thing is it just shows you a result of all the recent items that I've opened within SolidWorks, right? And then there is a way to actually pin them. So you can see that when you hover over any of these documents here, you get this pin command. So you can just pin them, and it makes sure that whatever documents you have pinned always stays on the top. So irrespective of how many documents you open after these, it will make sure that it's always pinned, it's available on top for you to quickly open them. So this is very, very helpful when you're working on a project, major projects, and then you open hundreds of components, right? But you still want to quickly access the main assembly each time. So it will be easier for you to actually quickly pin them. And there are some quick filters available if you want to just see the parts that you have pinned, assemblies, drawings. So all these things are quickly available, right? And also it is easier. So every time when you want to open files, right, we do file open and then browse from within the general explorer that we have. But you can actually switch to folders and whatever you have recently used actually. So you can quickly browse them from the folder section here itself, right? Or you can even choose browse from here, which will take you there. So this is again one quick tip that I want to show you. So once you're within any assembly or part, and you generally will be working on many commands, right? So generally we most of us remember where these commands are, but for few of the commands which are actually not here in the command manager, we have to go and search from within, wherever it is available. But one quick way to do it is if you use the S key on your keyboard, which is nothing but the shortcut bar, right? You see that you have these search commands here itself. So if you want to just click on the mirror components, you see you can access it right from here, right? So all you have to do is you just know the name of the command. You start typing, and you can see that you can access everything from here, wherever your mouse cursor is. You need not even actually have to hover over or keep searching for any of these commands. And one more advantage of this S key, which is basically the shortcut key, is that you can also add or customize these commands to actually add most commonly used commands right here. So for example, I'm in an assembly environment right now, so I can right click on this and say customize, or I think you can even access it from here. So, but I right click and say customize. So when you hit customize, you can see that the assembly, because you are in an assembly environment, the shortcut key stays, and you can make sure whatever commands that you need, not only from assembly, but whatever commands you need, you can just drag them and drop. Sorry, did anyone have a question?
No, Yatish,
Okay,
continue.
thanks so much. Okay, sorry. So you can quickly simply drag and drop whatever commands you want to quickly access in this particular environment here. And this particular S key is also customizable based on the environment you're working in. I mean, what I mean is if you're in a part environment, the S key actually brings up a totally different kind of commands that you can customize. So in a similar way, it is different for drawings as well. So this is one powerful thing where it actually helps you save a lot of time. Um, it prevents you from actually searching for commands or looking into commands, and you can quickly customize these things, right? So S key, that was a shortcut thing, right? And similar to the the keyboard shortcut that we also have something called as mouse gestures. Actually, I use it extensively. So for example, when I'm in a sketch environment, so just by holding the right mouse click and then moving your mouse, you actually see this cursor opens up. So this is basically the mouse gestures. It's totally customizable. So I mean, I use it a lot. So again, right click your mouse and then just move your mouse. So if you want to draw circles in the right direction, and you see this command is already activated, right? And again, this mouse gestures is also customizable. So right click, customize. Here's something called as mouse gestures. So actually, see, you can decide. And again, it's totally different for all the environments. You can have different mouse gestures for part, sketch, assembly, and also drawing. And actually, you can, 4 is not the number. So I think you can customize it up to 12 gestures. So if you can add 12 different commands in your mouse wheel. So let me move back just a second. I just cancel this. So now if you say I want to dimension this, again, all I do is I just move my mouse cursor, the smart dimension is right there, right? So these are some quick things which actually helps you focus on your design rather than wasting your time searching for steps in SolidWorks. Because when you're designing, I mean, people who are into design, you already know it, but because when you're designing stuff, your focus is entirely on the design stuff rather than you should not waste your time searching for commands, searching for things. So SolidWorks enables you to actually customize keyboard shortcuts and mouse gestures completely for your preference. It's ultimately for your preference so that you can easily access them when you need it, right? So now moving back to this assembly. Okay. So now when I want to see components within this assembly, so I just want to hide this part and then take a look at the assemblies within. So the general tendency is actually to right click and then use this hide component command from here, right? That's one way to do it. But the easiest way to do it is simply clicking on any part and hitting the tab key on your keyboard will make sure that quickly hides your component, right? So hitting the component and then tab. So it's really an easy way to actually hide your components. So this is again one quick thing that you can use. But if you want advanced level of, taking a look at what's inside, or even if you want to zoom things here rather than zooming this entire assembly, so then I would suggest that you hit the G key on your keyboard, which brings up this magnifying glass, as you can see, right? So you'll be able to actually zoom into the area only of the area of interest. So you can see that when I'm zooming in, so the entire model is not getting zoomed in. I'm just zooming in only in the area of my interest, right? And then if you want to take a look at the section view of how this model is, keeping this active, what I do is, see now I'm just scrolling my mouse, right? But rather if I hold Alt and scroll my mouse, you can see that you'll be able to see the entire section within the model without even having to go to the section view and then selecting a plane and creating these sections, right? Um, okay, thanks for muting yourself, whoever it was. So you can see this is a quick way to actually see the section view of a model rather than having to go into the section views and then you know that, right? You have to select a plane to take section. So this will help you quickly review the model. So whenever you're reviewing a model, I mean, you can simply use this G key on your keyboard to zoom in, zoom out, and then quickly take a look at all the section views and the components within the model for your review. Okay. So these were some simple things with respect to the UI stuff. So again, you might feel that I'm going too fast. Again, it is only with the fact that the time, keeping the time in mind. But if you have any further questions, or if you want to investigate or dive deeper into this, maybe, I mean, I'll just at the end of this, maybe I'll just give my email ID to you. You can write to me, or we can connect again and discuss more about these things. So I'll just move forward. I'll just start with a simple sketch. Um, File, start with a new part. In SolidWorks, we have an option, and in the settings, we have a settings where whenever user creates any sketches, right, we make sure that we automatically add these relations. So you can see that when I'm drawing lines, so now I just created few sketches here. You can see that we are automatically adding these relationships or constraints, right? So the geometry constraints, I would say. So the coincidence, the horizontal and vertical, right? But there are few cases where, I mean, you would still want that option to be on. You want SolidWorks to actually add all these relations. But especially when you're in the new product design cycle, right, where you yourself don't know the relations yet, you are still actually figuring out what relation should be. So what you can do is actually, so when you start creating a sketch, you actually hold down the control key and then start creating these sketches. So when you're holding the control key and creating sketches, so SolidWorks doesn't add any relations to it. You can see that, right? I have not made any modifications to the actual settings, the system options, but just keeping the control key, make sure that it doesn't add any relations to it. So why is it useful? So this becomes important, especially that's what I said, when you're in a new product definition. So when you're defining a product, you yourself don't know what the constraint should be initially in the conceptual stage. So in that cases, I mean, for few of these sketches, you want relations to be added automatically. For few you don't want, then in that case, hold a control key and then draw a sketch. That helps that the relationships are not automatically added, right? And not sure, most of you here might already know the next thing I'm going to show, but this is one thing that I don't want to miss showing in each of my presentations. So this is basically, we call it line to arc, right? So whenever you want to create a line to arc, so for example, I'll just draw two lines just for the sake of demonstration, right? So the typical way to add an arc between lines is that you first draw two lines and then choose the arc command and then draw an arc, right? But the better way to do it is you just start with a line and then you can simply hit the A key on your keyboard, which basically transforms this line into a curve. So you can see that I'm drawing an arc then. So once you're done with the arc, you can again continue adding a line, right? This is one way. And doing the same thing in another way would be that I again start by drawing a line. And if you're a person who doesn't want to use keyboard a lot and you don't want to hit the A key, then what you can do is you can actually go forward, come back to the same point. Then SolidWorks, you see that it brings up an arc. So all I did was I repeat what I just did. So I just start with a line. So I take my cursor away, then come back to this endpoint and see that it beautifully creates an arc out of that, right? So again, I'm sure that most of you might be aware of it, but this is something I don't want to miss. The next thing is, I've seen that many users actually don't know that this exists. So when I try to add a dimension or any feature for that matter, I mean, one way is to increment this is definitely using this box here, 5.2, 5.3. But another way is actually to use this spin wheel here. You can see that this is not just from an aesthetic point of view, but it works functionally as well. So you can simply use this spin box, that is what we call it, to increment these values. And one more good thing about this is you can actually go to your settings and then I think we have to wait for some time before it comes up. So then there is an option, you can just type in the spin box. You should be able to see this option, which is called spin box increments. Click on it. So here actually you will be able to define each time you increase the spin box, right? What should be the increment? Should it be 10 mm? I mean, for metric units, what should be the or for the inches? So what should be the increment? Whether it should be zero point 0.1, zero point 0.2, zero point 0.3, whatever is your design intent, right? You can just set this in, and every time you actually use this spin increments, it makes sure that that is incremented by only that value. So for now it is 0.1, so you can see that it is 5 point, it increases by 0.1. So all these things, I mean, you will understand the benefits of it once you start using it. You will never want to go back actually to this increments. Okay. So I'm still in the sketches. I want to show a few more things in the sketch area. So I just open this part that I created. See, assume that I want to create different sketches on all of these faces of this part, right? So the general tendency of any user is what I do is I select this face, sketch, then I add a sketch, exit the sketch, then I select this face, again as I mean again call the command sketch, so on and so forth. That's how we do it, right? But there is something called as a rapid sketch in SolidWorks. You can see it here. So once I keep it checked, right? So then what I do is, for now I'll just keep it back to isometric view. So on this face I need a circle. I quickly draw it. On this face I need a rectangle. So I select a rectangle and I see that once I hover over the face, see I simply can start sketching it. Then on this face maybe I want a slot. You see SolidWorks automatically identifies that this is the face you want to draw on. And when you draw a sketch, it is actually adding it on that face. So, and maybe on this I'll just add a hexagon. So now if you see in the feature manager tree, it has actually created 4 different sketches. I mean, that is what even you would do if you want to actually have 4 different sketches. But this actually saves you some time of actually having to click on a face, then say sketch, and then take the sketch command. So if rapid sketch on, you can make sure that you can simply go on creating sketches on different faces. SolidWorks will ensure that each sketch falls on the right plane or right face that you selected. So all these things are, again, few things that will improve your productivity, right? Um, so in sketches, what else can I show you? Yeah, I have one more model where I can actually show you a few more things in sketch, or maybe I'll use the same example. So now this is the base sketch that I've added. I'll just edit it. See now I want to actually modify this sketch in such a way that when I want to pull this sketch, I mean, I want to actually increase the length of this particular line segment, but not of this line segment. But today what happens if I extend this sketch, you can see that even this line segment is getting affected because of the constraints that they have, right? So now instead of deleting the constraints or deleting these constraints and then moving this line, a quick way to do it would be when you click on a line segment, right click, you'll have this command which is called as detach segment on drag. So once you click on it, I mean, you can see clearly that this is checked, right? It's active now. So now I can actually, you know, just drag this entity and you can see that this particular entity, whichever is attached to, is not being affected. It remains the same, right? Again, you will, I mean, there are many use cases for this, right? So I mean, one of the use cases that I could think of is there are many times where we would want to keep all other things the same, all other entities or all other sketches the same, but only change one of the entities in relation to this, whatever I'm moving. So in those cases, typically what users do is then select the line or even delete the line for that matter sometimes, or delete the relations and do all those things. Not needed, actually, not required. So you can simply right click and say detach segment on drag, and whichever point you drag it, you see that it actually drags without even changing the relationship with the other line. So this is detach segment on drag. So whenever you don't want it, you can just switch it off. So this was one thing, and the next thing, for that I'll just draw some random lines. Oops. Just on. So one of the most, we all know that one of the most powerful commands that we have in Sketch is the trim command, right? So it, I mean, so you can just select it, and especially with the power trim checked, so you can just keep on trimming stuff, right? So this is one thing. But what generally I used to face when I was a designer is that once you keep, I mean, let me keep the power trim on. So once you trim it, right? Now accidentally you realize that the last thing you trimmed, for example, I trimmed this, and you realize that the last thing you trimmed is something that you shouldn't have trimmed. So what we do, we end up giving this up and we have to do the control Z and then start the trimming operation all over again. But what actually you can do is, so when you're trimming any entities, you can see that the red dot actually follows this trim wherever you go. You can see that this red dot here in the graphics area. So I trim this and it follows me, right? So the whole point of that is without releasing the mouse click. If you haven't released the mouse click, so what you can do is you can simply go back to that. If you take your mouse to that right click, you see that it actually adds back whatever it has trimmed earlier. So see, I move back, I take it back. So you see that? So that's the whole point of why that has been given in the UI. So all I'm trying to say is you're doing a trim and you realize at some point that the last thing that you have trimmed is not something that you should have trimmed. You just go back to the red, it adds it back, and then you can continue trimming the other stuffs, right? So that's how powerful the trim command is, right? This is again one quick thing that will help you actually save a lot of time. And the last thing, and one of the most, I mean, many users have come back to me saying if this is actually possible in SolidWorks at all, is that if you have an arc, right, and they want to add this arc length, this is something that they struggle with. So for example, I can quickly, dimension this. When I dimension this, what you get is actually not the distance between these 2 points. It's actually not the arc length, right? And then if you actually take, sorry, it gives you the radius of the dia, right? But if this is not what you want, if it's the arc length that you're actually looking for, then there's a way to add it. So how we should do it, I just enable the smart dimension. First point of selection, second point of selection, and then you should actually select the arc for the third point of selection, and this will give you the exact arc length, right? So this is the quick way in which actually you can add arc length, avoiding a lot of calculations that you have to manually do if you have to actually arrive at that, right? So I repeat, so all you have to do is there are three things: the first point of an arc, the second point of an arc, and the third is the circumference of the arc itself. So it will give you this particular arc length, right? Yeah, so that's again one thing with the sketch that I wanted to show. I'll just exit the sketch. Uh, it's okay. Let's close this model. Okay. The next thing is I'll switch back to assembly for this. Okay. See now, there's an assembly which has a lot of components, a lot of sub-assemblies and a lot of components, right? So you will have to, I mean, if you want to search for a particular component, even from the feature manager tree, you have to do all these stuff. Like you have to actually have the drop down and keep on searching for it, right? If it's in this assembly or where is it exactly. But rather, if you remember the name of it, right, it will be easier for you to search even from this. So we have a search menu, like many users actually don't know it. So I can simply start searching for any of the models that you have, provided that you remember the name of the component. So just a second. So once I hit cylinder, so it basically you can see that it's not just listing the cylinder, uh, whatever components that you have starting with cylinder here, but it also makes sure that you only see those in the graphics area, right? Especially when you want to review stuff, this becomes very useful, right? So you're searching for only those components, for example, which is called bracket, right? So once you hit bracket and you initiate the search operation, so it actually filters out everything in the feature manager tree. Along with that, the same things are also filtered out, and you can only see those components in the graphics area. So this is a very powerful way in which you can actually quickly see and review things, right? And the next thing about modeling is, so I'll go back to this particular part to explain this better. I'll just take up a scenario where someone has sent this part for your review. So you have to review it step by step. So you are the design reviewer and you want to review each step that they have done. So generally how do we do it is that we have this. So I just push this bar up and then you come by step. So what has he done? What is the first step? What is the second step? This is how generally step by step review is done for each of the or most of the drawings, right? But a better way in SolidWorks is, let me put it back where it was. So you can actually search in the command for something called as part reviewer. Okay, we have this part reviewer. Most of you might not have explored it, but once I click on this, you get these buttons here. So the first step is, see it says step forward, jump to end. So I'll start with step forward, right? See, this thing starts with the first thing. Like this is the first step, and you can see that all the dimensions that is used in creating this is also highlighted. So when you do the same thing but from feature manager tree, you just see the features, but you don't see the associated dimensions. But when you do the same thing from part reviewer, it makes sure that it shows you this, I mean, the feature and also the important dimensions for this, like 154. So I go to the next step, right? So you can see it. All the dimensions that have been actually added in the sketch level is also visible along with the feature. And that's actually useful when you want to review a part. So, okay, what is the whole size? 85. You know clearly that it's 85. But when you do it from here, you don't get that information. You have to actually click on the feature to review it, right? So this makes it easier for you to actually review step by step all the features that you or someone else has created, making it more effective, actually. Yeah, so this is again one more effective thing. I have used this a lot in the past, and it really helps a lot. Right? Okay, so I'll just put it back where it belongs. And on the similar lines, when you right click on any part, right, we have this command which is called purge unused features. So once you click on it, this particular tab opens up. The main use of purging unused features is, see if there are any unused features in any of the configurations. For example, assume that you have 5 or 6 configurations of the same part, and there is some feature which is suppressed in all the configurations, which means that it's actually that feature is no more required. That's what it means, because if you have, I mean, if you have suppressed it in all the configurations, and there may be few other sketches and other sketches or any of these things which is actually not used for any of the, you might have created a plane, but that has not been used as a reference for any of the commands or any of the features, right? Then it is considered as unused. So SolidWorks quickly brings up all the items that you have either suppressed in all the configurations or which has never been used after being created. So, I mean, you can quickly review them, you can quickly uncheck them all, check them all or uncheck them all, or you can review all of these. And once you say okay, so all of these things will be deleted from the model, thereby reducing the size of the part, ultimately improving in performance, right? And this is not just on a part level, this is applicable for a, or even on an assembly level, right? So it actually helps you save a lot of space in terms of actually deleting the unused features. And that's a really quick way of finding it rather than having to search which of the features have been not used, right? Okay. I'll just start with the next thing here. I'll just delete. Yes. Okay. Can't ignore this. Let's ignore the error for now. So now what I'm trying to show is just one more thing is I'll start with the fillet. So I'll just, where's the fillet. Okay. So whenever you use a fillet command in SolidWorks, right? Generally what we do is if I want to add a fillet to this face, I mean, this edge, sorry, I select this edge. And then if I want to add a fillet to the other circle, right? So we tend to either, I mean, if we can select it from here, we do it, or we rotate the entire model and select it from here. That's how we do it, right? But actually what you can do is when a fillet operation, you have select the fillet operation. So you need not even rotate the model. You can see that you can select through the faces. So you see that if this is the edge where you want to add the next fillet, you can see that I can still keep the model, and even without rotating it, you can see that I can get to that particular edge. This is basically because the fillet lets you select through faces. So, and it saves you a lot of time. You need not rotate the model each time and actually select that particular edge where you want to apply the fillet, right? And the second thing is, most of the SolidWorks commands work like any other applications in the sense, for example, I want to copy this fillet. I can do a Control C. So, and you can select this particular edge and do a Control V, right? So it actually copies the fillet with the same value onto this edge. It's not just with fillet. Any other command, I'm saying it may be a chamfer, it may be a fillet or whatever. So all I'm trying to say is a Control C, Control V, or a Control X and Control V works. It's like any other Windows application, and it's as easy as that, right? So now once you have seen fillet, the next thing that I would like to show you is you can see that in this particular hole you have an additional material that has been added right here, and I want to remove it. So when I ask any designer to remove it, the first tendency or the first initial reaction would be that he will create a circle and then do a cutout, right? So that this will remove any additional material. But what you can actually rather do is under direct editing, you have something called as delete face, right? I select this command. I say that I want to remove these faces, right? This is the faces that I wish to remove, right? And you have this delete and patch command. So once you say delete and patch, you see that SolidWorks actually not just removes this face, but also makes sure that it patches. So it understands the geometry of this circle and it patches it neatly in that, right? So this actually saves you some time of actually having to draw a circle, cut, extrude, all those things are actually taken care of just by this delete face. So I mean, I can repeat this once again. So I mean, ignore the error for now. Let's do the fillet. So I choose delete face. I select these faces. Sorry, select the wrong face. Okay, correct one. So select this face. That's it. That's enough, I believe. And then make sure that you have this delete and patch. Otherwise, it's going to delete even the um, face of the circle. Actually, even this face will be deleted. So I say delete and patch. So once I do that, SolidWorks actually does a beautiful job of actually removing these faces and also patching it properly, right? Okay, that's with respect to delete and patch. I'll go back to one more example. Again, a very simple example. But now what I want to do is my intent is here. I want to create a sketch exactly on this edge. When I say on this edge, on a plane that is actually perpendicular to that edge, right? Or parallel to that edge. So what I have to do is general workflows, features, reference plane, select the edge, then you get a plane that is created, say okay, and then start sketching, right? But that's actually not necessary. So all you can do is I select this edge, right? And then I say sketch. You can see that SolidWorks has automatically created a plane for me in this region. And you can actually simply start sketching. And now, what if you say that I actually wanted a plane on the other side of the edge and not this edge? So for example, you say that I don't want a plane to be created here, but I rather want the plane to be created on the far side of the edge. So then what you have to do is whichever edge or whichever side of the edge your mouse cursor is closer to, that's where the plane will be created. So I can now, what I do is instead of keeping my cursor here, I actually keep my cursor on the other side. And now I say the same command, sketch. Right now you see that the plane has been created on the other side of the sketch, and you can, I mean, like any other sketch command, you can simply start sketching. Right. So these is again one quick thing that will help you. See, everything takes time. So even if you have to create a plane, you saw the number of clicks I had to do, right? One, two, three, and then four. So rather, it's just one click and then start sketching. So it's as easy as that. Especially when you're dealing with a lot of, I mean, it's a huge part, then you will definitely end up creating a lot of planes. And I mean, all I'm saying is wherever SolidWorks can do it for you, then why do it by yourself? That's it. So there's one more thing. And then I'm sure that most of you might have explored it. But one thing I actually enjoy whenever a customer asks me to share a PDF of the part, right? So when you do a file save as, I'll say save as, and I'll choose PDF, right? Can someone help me find where the PDF is? Uh, PDF. Where is it? Here.
The Adobe
No.
Portable, yeah, the Adobe Portable document format.
Sorry, I always, thank you for that. I'm always confused where it is. So then you have this option called Save as 3D PDF. You see this? So instead of a 2D PDF, you can actually save this entire PDF of a part as a 3D PDF. So I check this option. Also make sure I check View PDF after saving. I click here. And if you want to actually even customize it, I mean, there is many other options for a PDF which you can customize. Um, I will not go into details of it. This is not the forum for it. But if you want the accuracy is maximum, high, medium, low, you can just select it for a 3D PDF. Or if it's just a PDF, you have many more options, right? So I'll just cancel this and I say save. Okay. So I think it'll take some time for it to actually save it as a PDF and open it. In the meantime, okay, I guess it's opening in my other screen. Give me a moment. No. So I'll just pull the PDF. Give me a moment to the screen. So you can see that it created a 3D PDF. So you can see that when you share this 3D PDF with someone, they'll be able to actually rotate the model. I mean, it's not just for the part. You can even share an assembly. So, and they have many other options also. So how do they want to see it? They want to see a transparent bounding box. They want to see a wireframe of this model. So there are many things that they can actually see with this 3D PDF, right? It's a very powerful way of actually sharing your information with others, especially when you're sharing it with your customers, vendors, whoever, right? So they will get actually a lot of clarity on what is being done, and they can even have the, they can actually take a section view and actually see these things, how it works. A few other options, spin, zoom, so many other things, right? So again, this is again one powerful way to communicate your designs with others, right? So having said that, I think I'm well past the time. I have 8 minutes. I'll see what I can complete. um okay, I'll take a few more minutes. Maybe I'll take 5 more minutes and then end it there. I know we have quiz that you want. So whenever you open an assembly, the first thing is selections. See, now when you want to, for example, I want to select all these toolbox components and I want to hide them, right? The typical way is either to select them from the feature manager tree or select from the graphics area itself, right? I want to select one by one. But the simpler way is I can select one component, and in the selection tools, there is something called as select identical components. So when I hit that, SolidWorks automatically selects all the identical components available in this entire assembly. And it also highlights here in the feature manager tree as well as here. So I can right click and simply say hide to hide all of them at once. And since these are some standard components, when I say standard component, these are nuts, bolts, whatever screws, right? That is coming from SolidWorks toolbox. So I can rather say I want to select all the toolbox components. I'll just say select toolbox components. So you can see that SolidWorks quickly in a second selects all the toolbox components that I've used, right? And then I can right click and simply hide them. Simple. right? So the selections, again, I'm saying there are many other selection tools. I will let you explore most of them because there are many. So these are few things like select identical, select toolbox components. Uh, Hope SolidWorks doesn't crash. Okay. Yeah, and the next thing is, I'll wait for this to finish. Okay. So the next thing is when I want to insert a new component, for example, I want to insert another instance of the same thing. So I need not go to insert components every time. All I do is I select this component and hold control and then drag this. And I don't leave control first. I first leave the mouse click and then leave control. So now you have another instance of the same part. So now if you want to mate this on the other side of the part, so what we have to do, I have to select this face, rotate this, and then select these things. I mean, select this face for us to mate. I mean, for me to be able to mate it, right? But there is one more way to do it. Just a second. Display. If you can find it quickly. Just a second. Don't waste your time. Component window. Okay. Okay, maybe I'll take it at the end. I haven't added that command to my shortcut. But I can tell you quickly what it does. So when you right click and say there's a command called as component pre-window toolbar. So once you do that, so what it does is it actually opens up that component in a new window in the same screen. And you can just rotate that. So when you rotate, only that component rotates. The entire assembly actually stays as is. It doesn't rotate. But anyway, I can show it to you at the end of this session if time permits, because that takes some time to show. Okay, then I'll just move to the drawings because I want to show a few things with respect to drawings. I'll start with this. So I have a watch which has a very simple one. It's a wristwatch, right? So now you can see that the top thing that I've added here is actually when you have a glass on top of this watch, right? So this is the part I'm talking about. It's a transparent glass. So now I say file, make drawing from assembly. I say I want to create a new drawing. Okay. Okay. So this is something that we added new. I'll show you what that command is. Okay. Let's not check this. Okay. So typically, I think before SolidWorks 2023 or 2022, I don't remember the exact year. So once you add any component, even though it is transparent in the part or assembly level, you see that once you add it in the drawing, it actually becomes opaque. There is no way that you can see through this glass to actually know the time, right? So this is a wrong design intent being communicated, right? Saying that the glass is opaque, which is not the case. So now you have this option, which is basically called as see-through transparent components in drawings. So by default, it will be checked, but for the sake of example, I just uncheck this. So you can just say see-through. So you should be able to see this option, which is see-through transparent components. I click this, and once it's turned on for any new view that you add, the view will be transparent. Or you can select the view that you have already added, and then you should be seeing this new option under display style, which is see-through transparent components. So once you check this, we make sure that you will be able to see through all of the transparent components, like in a part or assembly, right? So initially, if you had to achieve this, you had to actually manually, click on the glass part, and then you say hide, and then you have to hide the component in the drawing. So these were some additional steps that you had to do in the past. If you had to actually see the dial, you had to hide the component itself manually, this glass component. So now with just one option, you'll be making sure that you will be able to see through transparent components in the drawings. And a few more powerful tips. I'll just switch to a different drawing. This one. See, one of the things that I've seen users struggle with, especially with respect to BOM, is see if you want to hide any of these rows in the BOM because you don't want to show it. For example, item number 1 to 13, you just want to show item number 1 to 5 for various reasons, right? So what we typically used to do earlier is we actually had to manually select all of these rows and then right click and say hide. That's what we do. Or we have this hide or show option. So you select this and you select all the rows that you don't want to show and then hide them. That's how we used to do it in the past. But now actually what SolidWorks is we have something called as BOM filters, right? So what it does is it's like an Excel filter that you're already familiar with. So you can just click on any of these. When you hover over any of these columns, you should be seeing this new drop down, which is nothing but the, it will just list down all the values in that particular column. So I can, for example, in this case, I'll select, I just want to see item numbers from 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So you see that it actually only brings in, it only shows that value, right? And there is one more thing that you can do, just this, oh, come on. Okay, I guess we have to wait for SolidWorks. So again, what happens is, if I have created this bomb from this particular view, the balloon also gets updated. So you need not worry about the balloon as well. So for example, bear with me, it's a little slow today. See if we can add a new view. Okay, let's add a new view. Okay. So now what I do is I'll go ahead and select the bill of materials and select this particular view, and I say top level only, and then I add a bomb. Okay. So then what I do, the typical workflow is I select the view and then do this auto balloon stuff. So balloons have been added. So now I go ahead and filter this bomb. So when you hover over the bomb, so you should be able to see that drop down that comes up just beside the column name. Uh, so you just click on it, one, or maybe I'll just deselect everything and say 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that it's not only the bomb that has been highlighted. You see that even the balloon gets highlighted. I mean, the balloon gets filtered out. In the sense, now only 1, 2, 3, 4 balloons are seen. So tomorrow, if you go and then at endpoint some check 5, right, and then just update it. So if that is visible in this view, even that balloon will be added to this particular view. So in the same fashion, if I come on. So if I remove this filter, all the balloons will be added back to this particular view, right? That's with respect to bomb filters. Yukti, I'll just take 5 more minutes of your time. I know you wanted 15 minutes for the quiz thing.
No
I
problem.
I hope you
Yeah.
don't.
No problem. We have enough time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you see that if I put back, or if I remove all these filters, you can see that we put back all the balloons. I mean, balloons of all the components that are visible in this particular view. Right? That's one more again powerful way. The next thing is initially, I'll again show you a setting before that. Mm, okay. So now another enhancement that we have done, one more quick tip is, so I think since SolidWorks 2023, we have this new feature. So previously, whenever, for example, you try to edit a cell value in a bomb, right? So users actually can go in and edit any cell value in a bomb. So I'll just add, for example, I'll change this item number to be 1, 2, 3, right? So previously, once you make any changes, so the thing is, assume that you have such a bomb and you make some manual changes. So now you will not be able, I mean, in the item number case, yes, you can find out, but if you change any description or part number or even quantity for that matter, there is no way for you to actually know which of the cells in the bomb has been modified. Especially if it has been done by another user, there was no way of knowing it. So now, if you just hover over the, I mean, when you click on the bomb, you will see that the things that have been modified actually appear in a different color. So this is an indication that this particular cell has been manually modified by some user or by yourself. So, and there is not just that, I mean, you'll be able to customize the color if you don't like blue. So, I mean, if you have any other color preference, so you can go to system options and then you have these colors, and then you should be able to find this particular uh, drawings, and in that you have these modified cells in a bomb. You can change this color to some other color, for example, red, and then you'll be seeing those modified cell values in a different color actually. Take some time to update, but once it's done, so these things will get updated to red color rather than blue. Yeah, go ahead. In the bomb. Mhm. Okay. And then, okay. Hmm. No, you're saying that you hide it how? You are hiding it in assembly or you're hiding it in the BOM? Hiding it in the BOM? Like how? Right click and say, no, you're hiding the row or hiding the component? Mm-hmm. Ah, okay. No, that is not possible. So today we are basically not even, we are not dealing anything with the components. I get your question. So you're asking that if I filter out my items here, then can you also filter out it from the view, right? So that is not possible. So for that, actually, you have to create display states. And I mean, there is a different approach that we have actually taken for this. So you're familiar with this display states that we have, right? So you can create display states, I mean, with these components hidden. And from 2025, SolidWorks 2025, you have a new option where you can link your BOM to display states. So basically, your BOM will be showing only those components which are visible in the view rather than showing everything. That's the way to do it. We are not supporting it through filters as such, but there is a new option in the BOM which is basically which is called link to display states that you'll be seeing from 2025 SolidWorks. So that's what's new. So what happens is, so you can actually create display states. You can hide these components. You can add a BOM, and then you can select a BOM and say, I mean, you'll be seeing a new option here, which is called as link to display states. Once you click that, only those components which are visible in this view will be shown in the BOM. That's how. But we are not. Whatever you're asking is not possible through filters. Sorry. Okay. The next thing is I'll just create another sheet. So whenever I add any view, right? So I add a front view, and then you see that we have this alignment. So when I add a projected view, we have this alignment automatically added. You can see that line, right? So I can add views in the same alignment, right? Now if you want to break alignment, generally what we do is we place the view and right click and say break alignment. But rather what you can do is before placing the view, you can just hold the control key. And this makes sure that see that alignment is broken. It need not be in the same line. But once I release the control key, you see that it aligns itself to that particular alignment, right? So again, I hold control and drag it. So now I can place it. So it just makes sure that it breaks the element on the fly rather than you having to actually place the components and then breaking them, right? So that is one thing. And the next thing that I actually want to show you is with respect to the new way to actually reattach the dimensions. Just a second, give me a moment. I'm sorry about SolidWorks being too slow. I have many SolidWorks versions running on my machine. In my another screen, I think that's what is slowing it down. So the last thing is regarding the reattached dimensions. So most of you are aware that if any dimensions go dangling, or even if it's a non-dangling dimension, so initially the way to reattach was a little clumsier, I would say. So for example, I will add a smart dimension. So I will add it from this particular edge, or maybe to this particular edge. So the first thing you will notice is when I hover over the dimension, right? What we have enhanced, or the quick thing is when we hover over the dimensions, you can see that the referenced elements also get highlighted. It's not just the dimension getting highlighted. You can see that the edges are also turning orange. I mean, if whatever is the color of the dimension, the same. You can see that we are highlighting these two edges. So which basically makes it easier for you to recognize, especially when you have many edges overlapping like this, right? When you add a dimension, if you hover over them, actually it'll also highlight the entities to which it is attached to, so that you clearly know what it's attached to. And the next thing is, if you want to reattach this dimension to a different edge and not this one. So initially the procedure, I mean the process was you select the dimension, then you used to get this blob. You had to control drag. I mean you have to select and drag it to different edge. But the problem with that method was it was a hit and miss. Sometimes it used to snap, sometimes it actually most of the times it didn't. So what we have done is once you right click, you should be seeing this new option called reattach, right? So once you hit reattach, actually we are going to highlight. Okay, there's a bit of flag. Let's wait for it to come up. So you see that you get this X mark, and which clearly states. You can see this in the status bar on the left hand bottom corner that it says select a point, vertex, or edge to attach to. So now I say that I don't want to. I want to reattach it to a different edge. So what I do is I actually click this particular edge, and then the focus automatically, the X focus automatically switches to the next next extension line. It says that select a point, vertex, or edge to attach to. Then I quick select this particular edge, and you see that the attachment is perfect. So this is a quick way of reattaching. I mean, not just dangling dimensions, but any dimension. So all you have to do is right click, reattach. We have enhanced the UI of how things work, and also the logic of how things reattach. You can either choose an edge, vertex, anything. and it's easier. So all you have to do is right click reattach, and it brings up that X mark. So you just have to select the first point, I mean point or whatever, and then it quickly snaps to that, right? So if you want to skip this, so you want the other extension line to still remain where it is, you can just hit enter, and it takes that as is, right? Okay, with this, I'll just end my presentation. As I told you, I have many more tips and tricks to show, but keeping the time constraint in mind, maybe we can run another session, maybe next year or this year, any other user group meeting. I can just take you through many more such tips and tricks, which will actually help you improve your productivity, right? And help you work easily with SolidWorks. So the main intent of this is you should be more concerned about your design rather than being concerned about the commands and finding it in SolidWorks. That's the whole intent of why we actually wanted to show the tips and tricks, right? I know I was fast with this, pardon me for it,